All right, let's just jump right in and tackle one of the biggest questions there is. Is the world you see and touch actually real? We're going to start with what feels solid, what feels real. And then we're going to watch how fast that certainty just completely dissolves when science and, believe it or not, ancient wisdom force us to look a little closer. So, our journey begins in the absolutely bizarre world of quantum physics. And right off the bat, it tells us that the chair you're sitting on, the screen you're looking at right now, it isn't solid. Not in the way you think it is, anyway. This really gets at the split personality of reality itself. See, on one hand, we experience the world as made of solid, separate things, or particles. But when you get down to the most fundamental level, physics reveals that everything is also an interconnected wave, just this big field of pure vibration and potential. And here's the part that will really bend your mind. It's not one or the other, it's both at the same time. It's like the universe literally waits for us to look before it decides how it's going to appear. This means the simple act of you observing something actually helps shape the reality that you see. And this is where modern physics and ancient wisdom just beautifully converge. This wild discovery sounds so similar to the concept of Maya from Eastern philosophy, this idea that our senses are perceiving a kind of illusion, a veil that's hiding the true, unified nature of reality. It's an incredible parallel, right, between the physics lab and these ancient texts? Okay, so let's shift gears. Let's move from the nature of the outer world to the mystery of our inner world, consciousness itself. I mean, where does your awareness actually come from?
For a really long time, the standard answer's been pretty simple. Your brain is a generator. It's this 3-pound lump of tissue that somehow creates everything you experience as you. But there are some pretty profound human experiences that are starting to really challenge that whole model. Just think about the incredible accounts from near-death experiences. This quote here is about a woman named Vicky. Get this, she was blind from birth. During a car accident, she said her consciousness left her body, and for the first time in her life, she could see perfectly. She even recognized herself by a ring she'd only ever known by touch. So how is that possible if vision is created only by the eyes and the brain?
Stories like Vicky's have pushed some scientists to propose a totally different model. What if the brain doesn't create consciousness at all, but instead, it receives it? What if it's acting more like a radio or an antenna, just tuning into a signal that exists outside of our bodies?
Now, this isn't just fringe speculation. A group of scientists actually signed something called a Manifesto for a Post-Materialist Science, and they're pointing to evidence the standard model just can't explain. They're citing verifiable cases of patients describing things that happened while they were clinically dead. They're also pointing to brain scans of monks in deep meditation which show less brain activity, not more, almost as if the brain's filter is being turned down to let more of reality in.
Okay, so if the brain can work like an antenna, what kind of signals can it pick up? Well, some of the greatest creative breakthroughs in history might give us a really compelling clue. A lot of the world's most brilliant creators share this strange feeling. They don't feel like they invented their best ideas. It feels more like they received them.
The mathematical genius Srinivasa Ramanujan had almost zero formal training, and yet he came up with these theorems that just baffled the world's greatest minds. His explanation? He said a Hindu goddess showed him the equations in his dreams. He was just writing down what he was being shown.
And we see the same kind of thing in music. Paul McCartney famously woke up one morning with the entire perfect melody for the song Yesterday just playing in his head. He actually spent weeks asking people if they'd ever heard it before because he was convinced he must have plagiarized it. He finally realized it was a completely new melody that had just arrived, fully formed. These stories really suggest a different model of creativity, don't they? Instead of us manufacturing ideas from scratch, maybe genius is really the act of tuning your personal antenna to the right frequency and just downloading information that's already out there. So, that leads to the next logical question, right? If ideas can be downloaded, where is this universal broadcast coming from? Well, mystical traditions actually have a name for this, the Akashic Records. They describe it as a kind of cosmic library that contains the blueprint for, well, everything. In more modern terms, you might think of it as a universal information field or maybe a collective consciousness.
And we actually see hints of this universal field in the history of invention. It's just uncanny how often major breakthroughs happen to different people in different places at the exact same time. It's almost as if the idea itself becomes ripe and it seeks out multiple human collaborators to be born into the world. The legendary music producer Rick Rubin, he's observed this throughout his career. He sees creativity not as some personal act, but as a collaboration with the zeitgeist, the spirit of the times. When an idea is ready, it finds an antenna. Simple as that.
So, after this whole incredible journey, from quantum particles to cosmic information fields, why does any of this matter in our day-to-day lives? Well, the answer might be found in a very common and very painful modern feeling. The author Elizabeth Gilbert proposes this really profound idea. Maybe the epidemic of loneliness in our culture isn't just about a lack of connection to other people. Maybe it's a deeper kind of starvation, a disconnection from this vast, unseen world of meaning and inspiration and consciousness that we've been exploring.
And the way to reconnect? It's through creativity. And not just for artists, for everyone. The act of making something, of getting into a state of flow, of simply listening, that is the act of pointing your antenna toward the universe and collaborating with it.
You know, thinking of your mind as an antenna, it changes everything. It suggests you're not just some isolated machine generating thoughts. No, you are an active participant in a vast, creative cosmos. And the most powerful thing you have, then, is the choice of which frequency you tune into. So the question is, what signal are you choosing to receive?